Auschwitz Commandant Rudolf Hess confessed during his trial that 1.1 million prisoners had been killed at Auschwitz. Most historians believe that the death toll was much higher. In this presentation, I will be exploring the question of whether or not the Allies could have, and secondly should have, bombed Auschwitz. Knowledge of the situation in Auschwitz. History supports that the Western governments had wide knowledge of Auschwitz. As early as January 1941, a Polish government report to the British Royal Air Force described Auschwitz as a most inhumane concentration camp. In November 1942, the New York Times reported that trainloads of people are being taken to crematoriums in Auschwitz, and in March 1944, a Polish government report stated that more than 500,000 people, mainly Jews, had been killed at Auschwitz. Feasibility of bombing Auschwitz. The Allies were capable of bombing Auschwitz. By November 1943, the US Air Force based in Foggia, Italy, was within range of Auschwitz. US bombers ran missions bombing oil refineries in August and September 1944. Historian Rundle Rice noted, "The evidence shows the US Air Force's ability to bomb Auschwitz, and by the summer of 1944, the command had ample aircraft with sufficient range and payloads necessary for such a mission." Morality of bombing Auschwitz. To be willing to sacrifice the innocent inmates, the Allies would have had to know the conditions in the camp and to presume that interrupting the killing process would be worth the loss of life. The conditions were not known with certainty until the spring of 1944, around the time that two prisoners, Verber and Wetzler, escaped and reported the situation. On receiving this report, even Jewish leadership was divided on pressing for military action, as some feared that this would promote the perception that World War II was a Jewish war. Would bombing Auschwitz have detracted from the war effort? In mid-1944, Assistant Secretary of War John McCloy wrote, "Such an operation could be executed only by the diversion of considerable air support essential to the success of our forces now engaged in the decisive operations elsewhere. Based on the actual resources, this was questionable. The Soviet Union certainly had the tools to bomb Auschwitz with minimal damage to the Jewish victims, but Stalin was anti-Semitic and helping them was not his priority." Would bombing Auschwitz have killed more than it saved? Any bombing of Auschwitz would have killed inmates in the process, however, would likely have been successful. A bombing near Buchenwald was successful and accurate. In Auschwitz, the prisoners did not live near the crematoria given the gas chambers were in the corners of the camp. It would have been difficult for the Germans to rebuild the gas chambers in the summer of 1944 with the demands of the war, and without the gas chambers, the killings would at least certainly have been lessened. Overall, I believe that the Allies did have the capability and technical abilities to bomb Auschwitz. However, I don't believe that many people could have been saved, and most would have died in the collateral damage of the bombs, despite what some historians argue.